big topic. First, let me say that I'm sure it will be a major inconvenience for Russia to not have access to the SWIFT system. But the West, has threatened this since, I believe, 2016, 2017. And Russia has had all that time to work on their own clearing system.
Yep.
So this is not like a bolt of lightning out of the blue. They've had time to prepare for it. And I would think that if they were not prepared for it, there would not have been an invasion. Next, let me say that Russia is one of the least indebted countries in the world. I think their debt is something like 14% of their GDP. And the West collectively is a debt monster. The U.S. is well over 100% debt to GDP. Japan, I think, is 300% debt to GDP. And to just go back 30 years ago, anytime any country got to 100% debt to GDP, that was the threshold to Banana Republic land. So the picture I'm trying to paint is, from a financial standpoint, Russia is not leveraged, and the West is entirely over-leveraged. So if there's going to be a financial disaster, I don't think it's going to be in Russia. Yeah, their stock market's down, the ruble's gotten hit, they've got bank runs, but they don't owe anybody.
So this could be the ultimate boomerang effect, could it not, Bill?
That's my point. It's very possible. We'll see. We should get a clearer picture this week. I mean, Friday's action, was basically reflex, if you will. After the Thursday's action, then Friday things came back. Let's see if that holds. I suspect it will not, and I suspect this could finally be the moment of loss of control, if you will. And one other thing Russia did announce is that starting tomorrow, they are resuming their purchases of gold and precious metals. And obviously, they don't do that on COMEX. They buy it and say, ship it to us.
And they might not be the only ones doing that, right, Bill? Because let's face it, when there are times of uncertainty, the precious metals seem to shine the most as far as how they not only hold their value, but actually increase their value. Am I off on that?
No, that's correct. But there's an additional factor, and we just spoke about it, the amount of debt in the West. Yep. Gold and silver cannot go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. And what is it that you want to own in a world that is bankrupting? You want to own something, and in this case, gold and silver are money. You would own monies that cannot bankrupt.
As you've always pointed out, Bill, and your partner Jim Sinclair has pointed out, you want to own something that doesn't have something called counterparty risk, correct?
Exactly. And when you're talking about counterparty risk, Dave, let me just throw this out there just as a reminder for your listeners. Back in 2008, 2009, it was discovered that there was $1.4 quadrillion worth of derivatives.
Okay.
All of that has counterparty risk. Then they came out and said, "Oh well, we kind of double counted, and there's only 700 or 800 trillion." Well, here we are, 12 years later, 14 years later. It's definitely over 1.4 quadrillion of leverage out there that has counterparty risk.
So, Bill, could you make sense of this to me? So when I heard about this expelling the United States or expelling Russia out of the SWIFT system, I'm thinking, now, wait a minute. As you mentioned, Russia and China had set up an alternative to the SWIFT system a number of years ago, all ready to go. Europe, that is in desperate need of gas and oil, buys gas and oil and will continue to try to buy gas and oil from Russia, and the United States also buys gas and oil from Russia. using that same SWIFT system, yet this is something that they want to kick Russia out of. Bill, exactly, did anyone think this through, or is it just me that's confused?
It shocks me that they're doing this. I mean, it's the financial nuclear option, and it's the West that's sitting on the nuclear bomb, not Russia.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like a guy who's holding himself hostage and puts a gun to his head and goes, "Get any closer, and I'm going to kill the hostage." Right? I mean, right?
Exactly. That's the way I see it. And Dave, you can add on top of that what Trudeau did a week ago by commandeering, closing bank accounts. He's caused a bank run to get started up in Canada.
Well, and Bill, what I hear from my contacts up in Canada is one of the things that ended that whole situation where all of a sudden he goes, Monday it goes through about the Emergencies Act, and they're going to freeze account, blah, blah, blah. And the House voted on it, and they were waiting for the Senate to vote on it later in the week. And then all of a sudden on Wednesday night, 5 o'clock again, he comes out and goes, no, just kidding. We're not Emergency Act. That's gone. What? I heard that there was the 5 banks that closed. It wasn't because they got hacked. It's because they had bank runs going on to the public saying, wait a minute, if you're going to do that to these truckers who are just peacefully protesting for freedom, who's to say you're not going to do it to me next week? I'm getting my money out of these things. I heard, Bill, there were a couple things. One was a bank run. The other thing I heard is China, that's very ingrained in the Canadian banking system, came to Trudeau and his little hench person, Chrystia Freeland, who sits on the World Economic Forum board, and said, what are you doing? Stop it. You keep going with this, we're going to show you a picture of your futures, and it's not so pretty. And it was China that I heard behind the scenes, along with these bank runs, along with a possible threat from hackers because they went after crypto accounts, were saying, really, you want to play this game? Hey, take a look at the information we've hacked that we're going to let out on you guys if you push through with this. That's what I heard, Bill.
Yeah, I don't know how to verify that or not verify that, but I think it's awful strange that they would rescind the order. And I think it's they didn't think it through because what was the reaction that they would expect people? Just the average citizen. What is their thought process?
I think they thought it was going to put them into such horrible fear they'd become paralyzed.
Right.
And it was the exact opposite.
Well, so I can tell you it's the exact opposite. Normally I have fairly quiet weekends. I've been on the phone with people all weekend long, particularly new people wanting to purchase gold, wanting to purchase silver, and get their money out of banks first thing Monday morning.
Now, is that just in Canada? Is that around the world? Is that in the United States? Where is that?
I'm going to say probably I've been contacted by 15 or 20% have been Canadian and the rest Americans.
And then we had this, Bill. Today, the European Central Bank's Lagarde urges immediate crypto regulation to stop Putin evading sanctions. So it appears she's saying that if you're into crypto, you're associated with Putin. I mean,
you're a terrorist.
Right. Bill, this is an issue. This is a problem if you got crypto. Am I off?
Well, it's eventually, yeah. I mean, and we've said this all along, is that if central banks come out with their own digital currencies, they're not going to allow competition with, if you want to call them private cryptos, whatever you want to call them. They have got to be the only game in town. So I have no idea what or how, but it looks to me like central banks, sovereign treasuries are going to make crypto's life difficult.
Right, at the expense of them pushing their new digital currency and their right, and of which I think the beta test for that was to see how things were going to go was Trudeau and Freeland, and it failed miserably.
It failed miserably. Yeah, that cat cannot be put back in the bag.
No,
I mean the cat's
people,
out, right. And now it's going to make it more difficult for central banks to do digital currencies because people aren't going to trust that, everything they've worked for gets shut off because they read the wrong website or said the wrong thing. And Dave, I don't know if you wanted to go here or not, but one of the important things, and I urge everybody to read Putin's speech from last Wednesday before the invasion. It'll take you 10 or 15 minutes to read it, but you definitely should read it. One of the things that I think is very important was that he said they're going to go after criminals in Ukraine. And we know that it's been a money laundering operation. We know that it's been a cesspool. Mm-hmm. And what scares me is you're going to have some top Ukrainians squealing. Mm-hmm. Squealing on Westerners. I mean, we could name names if you want, or not.
Well, go right ahead. I'm all for names.
Well, I mean, Biden. You could say Biden because you saw him with the, you're not getting $1 billion unless you fire this guy.
Right.
I mean, go up and down the list. Hillary, and it doesn't have to be all Democrats. I mean, there's been dirt all
Romney's
over the place.
Romney's
what
kid is
scares me is right. If Putin does go through with this and does push it and names start getting named, these people are going to kick the table over. And when I say kick the table over, start pushing red buttons. Because that's the only way to cover their tracks if they're being tracked down.
So your partner, Jim St. Clair, for years has said, get out of the system.
Exactly.
You've said that for years.
Yep.
And the two of you have taken a lot of grief for that. Well, right now, Bill, your phone, you said, has been ringing off the hook.
Correct.
Of people that are
who now want to get out of the system.
Yeah. But for years decided they were going to play in the system, and I don't know if this will ever happen. I don't think this will ever happen. Well, guess what?
It's happening before your eyes.
Right. And another way of the system being adversely affected is through what Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum has called a cyber pandemic. And Bill, I've been playing this clip every week for over a year. I'm going to play it again and then get your take, because I believe this is what is occurring as we speak. Derek, hit it.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Bill, your take.
Well, I mean, he has come right out and said by 2030, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. I think it's very possible that they could create the you will own nothing scenario, but I don't think people will be happy about it. All I would say is, if he's saying this, I would not disbelieve it.
Yeah. Okay, Bill, what do people need to do to protect themselves?
Well, get out of the system. Get as far out of the system as you can. Become as self-reliant as you possibly can. I mean, it's rather late to begin if you haven't started. I would say for those who have tried to prepare, make a list, get stuff, whatever loose ends you need to clean up, get them done. Get them done now while you can.
Bill, a number of people saw the price of gold and silver skyrocketing on Thursday, only to see the syndicate, if you will, and the algos and the machines and God knows what else, have it so that it lost all of its gains and actually was down on the day. Many people say, well, how did that happen? And, well, are they just going to keep doing this to gold and silver? Your take.
Well, it's done with paper. It's done with paper contracts that are sold short to push the price down, but there's no gold and there's no silver behind those sales. Can they keep doing it? Yeah, they can keep doing it until the day comes when delivery is demanded and they don't have enough metal to meet delivery. There will be a failure to deliver. And it would not shock me if this is the event that does it. And I think, by the way, that's one of the reasons Putin came right out and said we're resuming our metals purchases on Monday, because he understands that is the absolute Achilles heel to the entire Western financial system.
Bill, you've been doing this for decades. Have you ever seen a financial market more unstable than it is right now?
No, I have not.
And
I was a broker during the 1987 crash. I went through the dot-com bubble, bailed out of the U.S. before the housing crisis in 2008, and no, none of those even can hold a candle to what's going on right now.
Bill, do you believe in the long run, when we get through this cycle, or whatever you want to call it, that the world is going to be in a better place or a worse place?
I would certainly hope a better place.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to tear. They're going to have to tear down the current system, and I would hope that monies are reintroduced that have some sort of backing.
What if tomorrow Vladimir Putin announced that the ruble was going to be backed by gold and silver? What would happen to the world financial markets?
That would blow the system up, because that's the first shoe. The second shoe would be China saying we're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And basically that would be the cash call on gold.
Yep.
Because we've not had an audit in the United States since 1956 of our gold.
Correct.
So, we'll show you our gold, you show us yours. And we can't do that.
Because it's long gone, isn't it?
I think so.